Alrighty, welcome one and welcome all to the Junk Shop Library channel. Our normal shtick here is what we call Improv Bible Study. What we do is we read a chapter of the King James Bible because it was published in 1611 and is thus in the public domain. Then we riff on it. Sometimes we're family friendly in the riffing, most of the time we're not. We're almost never family friendly in the Bible because it's the Bible. So if you got kids in the room, put on some headphones or get the heck out because it's the Bible. Woof! Hello, God. All right. This stream is dual purpose. First, we've got to get into 1 Samuel. We just finished Ruth. We got to get into 1 Samuel now that we're getting into the meat of the Davidian era of the Bible. And second, we've got to see if my streaming capability still works or worked again. Dave helped me troubleshoot yesterday, and I think I figured out what's going on. Now that I had it pointed out to me that I had done a stupid where the computer is concerned, and I fixed some stuff. See, what had happened was my computer, like most computers, has a mind of its own. And I had done a stupid. Now, the stupid I had done is I had copied over all my old videos to thumb drives. But what I had not done was delete the originals off of the hard drive. So I had every video I've ever shot or worked on, including, for no discernible reason, 15 copies of my old high-resolution intro, copies of every video I've ever done, going back to Deuteronomy. Dozens and dozens and dozens of them. And then I had secondary copies of those because they had gone into the exported videos folder, which I had forgot was there, in addition to being on camera roll, which I had forgotten was full. So, apparently, if your entire bloody memory bank on your computer is absolutely positively stuffed to the gills, jam-packed and full to overflowing, that creates a problem with paging. That may mean something to those of you technologically literate. It meant nothing to me. But since it was going to be a problem, and since I'm trying real hard not to embarrass myself on Chris's stream tomorrow morning, we went in and we deleted a whole bunch of stuff, including some temporary internet files that seem to date back to the dawn of time. It's all fun and games until somebody gets booted off the stream because his computer is old and he doesn't know how to use it. Thankfully, Chris was very gracious about that in this morning's stream. He has chosen to see it as entertaining rather than frustrating, and so I am electing to see it that way as well. This is going to be riveting stuff for those of y'all watching in the future. All right. So, we turn today to the first. I have schmutz on my holy book. Schmutz, I say. We turn today to the first chapter of the first book of Samuel. And I've got a banner for it. It's almost like I'm on top of stuff and know what I'm doing. Those of you who weren't here yesterday or the day before might actually be fooled into thinking I knew what I was doing if I hadn't just spent 5 solid minutes explaining how much of a stupid I had done. All right. Well, without further ado, let's turn to Holy Writ and see how awful it gets today. I'm going to try to keep cussing to a minimum today because I need to get myself out of the habit of cussing every third word if I'm going to be on the streams of people who would prefer that I conduct myself like a grown-up and not like an angry 17-year-old. That's just my perspective. All right. Samuel 1:1. Now, there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim of Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephrathite. And he had 2 wives. The name of the one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. And this man went up out of his city yearly, to worship and to sacrifice unto the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. And the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were priests of the Lord, and they were there. And when the time was that Elkanah offered, he gave to Peninnah his wife, and to all her sons and her daughters, portions. But unto Hannah he gave a worthy portion, for he loved Hannah, but the Lord had shut up her womb. Of course. And her adversary also provoked her sore, for to make her fret, because the Lord had shut up her womb. And as he did so year by year, when she went up to the house of the Lord, so she provoked her. Therefore she wept and did not eat. Then said Elkanah her husband to her, Hannah, why weepest thou? And why eatest thou not? And why is thy heart grieved? Am I not better to thee than 10 sons? So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Now Eli the priest sat upon a seat by the post of the temple of the Lord. And she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto the Lord, and wept sore. And she vowed a vow, and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thine handmaid, but will give unto thine handmaid a man-child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. And it came to pass, as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli marked her mouth. Now Hannah, she spake in her heart, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she had been drunken. And Eli said unto her, How long wilt thou be drunken? Put away thy wine from thee. And Hannah answered and said, No, my lord, I am a woman of a sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. Count not thine handmaid for a daughter of Belial, for out of the abundance of my complaint and grief have I spoken hitherto. And Eli answered and said, Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant thee thy petition that thou hast asked of him. And she said, Let thine handmaid find grace in thy sight. So the woman went her way, and did eat, and her countenance was no more sad. And they rose up in the morning early, and worshipped before the Lord, and returned, and came to their house to Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and the Lord remembered her. Wherefore it came to pass, when the time was come about after Hannah had conceived, that she bare a son, and called his name Samuel, saying, Because I have asked him of the Lord. And the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer unto the Lord the yearly sacrifice, and his vow. But Hannah went not up, for she said unto her husband, I will not go up until child be weaned, and then I will bring him, that he may appear before the Lord, and there abide forever. And Elkanah her husband said unto her, Do what seemeth thee good, tarry until thou have weaned him, only the Lord establish his word. So the woman abode, and gave her son suck until she weaned him. And when she had weaned him, she took him up with her, and 3 bullocks, with 1 ephah of flour, and a bottle of wine, and brought him unto the house of the Lord in Shiloh, and the child was young. And they slew a bullock, and brought the child to Eli. And she said, O my lord, as thy soul liveth, my lord, I am the woman that stood by thee here, praying unto the Lord. For, stop it, McAfee. Of course. Stop it. Close it. Son of a gun. Dear, dear, dear. Couldn't have waited for 3 more verses. I am the woman that stood by thee here, praying unto the Lord. For this child I prayed, and the Lord hath given me my petition, which I asked of him. Therefore also I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he liveth, he shall be lent to the Lord. And he worshipped the Lord there. And there we have 1 Samuel 1. All right, let's see. I saw the chat go blurring by. Let's see what's going on. Oops, Dave says drifting out of sync. Still problematic? Let's see. Oh, hi, Maya. Welcome, welcome. Hello, the Daily Atheist. Welcome, welcome. That was a great stream earlier with Ease of Easeism. I knew he was an artist. I had no idea what sort of artist. I just, I'd seen him around in live chats and such, and knew that he did the art, but I had no idea what sort or style of brand of art it was. And it's all so cool. I love it. Dave says his name is Sal. Yes. Sorry, I saw that in the chat, but because of what was in his Chiron, I didn't know if that was, I didn't know how public a knowledge that was, and I'm a little twitchy about that. Let's see. Chris says he's having a video premiere on Facebook. Okay. Well, have fun with that. Enjoy. Best of luck. I do not myself Facebook, so I'll just have to hear about it later. Okay, let's see. I don't seem to be glitching out too bad. How am I looking on y'all's end? I'm gonna edit this banner here because I think I know what's coming up next. 12 minutes in, no significant problems except for some drifting. Okay, Maya says it looks fine to her. Good. Well, that's because nobody knows my name. I'm just Junk Shop. And there's a story behind that, and if you want to know the story behind that, you'll just have to tune in to the Daily Atheist tomorrow morning when I'm going to be telling the story behind that. It's just coffee. Maya says she's a technical idiot. Oh, you don't know from technical idiot. Go back and watch about the first 5 minutes of this stream after we wrap up today, and I'll explain to you what kind of technical idiot true technical idiocy can be. It can be spectacular and lead to problems. All right, so Elkanah had 2 wives, which always goes so well in this book, which interestingly I heard brought up the other day by someone with whom I violently disagree on almost everything, but whose name I do not at the moment recall, who was taking the pro-Bible side of a discussion. And somebody brought up, of course, they went through the usual suspects, slavery, genocide, war brides, war crime, rape victims, pillaged peoples, chattel slavery. And then they landed upon polygamy, and the pro-Bible guy mounted the argument that the Bible sort of by implication is against polygamy, because every time someone has more than one wife, it always goes badly. That's an interesting take. I think it's a stretch. Because this marriage did not go badly because Hannah was one of two wives. It went badly because she was not able to have children with Elkanah, and it was assumed, of course, to be Hannah's fault because woman. I'm a little all over the place this morning. I keep losing track of my sentences, which are becoming Byzantine even by my standards. Dang it. Okay. So, she can't have children, at least to the best of her knowledge, she can't have children. And she gets all bent out of shape over it, because remember, this is a time when your worth as a woman was really determined by how many babies you could crank out, and man children specifically. So she goes to pray, and is praying in her heart, but is so distraught that she's mouthing the words that she's speaking. None of us have ever done that, I'm sure. Or thinking, mouthing the words that she's thinking. An old man Eli, who runs the temple, is sitting there hanging out, waiting to be called upon to perform his priestly duties, looking for bullocks to sacrifice and doves' heads to wring off and so forth. And he sees this poor woman standing there in the middle of the courtyard, because remember, women aren't allowed in the temple proper. They're only allowed in the court of the women, which is, if memory serves, it goes the public space, the court of the Gentiles, the court of the women, the court of the men, the sanctuary, the Holy of Holies where the ark is. The ark of the, help me. Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant. So she's standing there in the court of the women, mouthing words and not saying anything. He says, oh boy. Comes over to her. He says, lady, it's a little early in the day to be this drunk, isn't it? What's wrong with you? And why are you here if you're drunk? You're not supposed to be drunk in the temple. Only if you're a Levite are you allowed to drink wine and strong drink in the temple. Reading between the lines a little there. And she says, I'm not drunk. I'm praying. I'm just so stressed out that I'm mouthing my words whilst I pray. And he says, my bad. Sorry. Good luck. Doesn't ask her what her prayer was, you notice. Just stumbles over himself and apologizes for mistaking her for having been drunk and shoos her on her way. So she goes home, Hannah does, and gets it on with her husband Elkanah, and in the fullness of time, she bears a man-child. Apparently, solely because she had promised him to the Lord if she had one. And apparently didn't tell her husband about it. For once, in this book, the wife does something bizarre and the husband's reaction is not recorded. Normally, it's the other way around. The husband does some batshit dumb stupid, and the woman's response is not recorded. So anyway, the next year, Elkanah's getting ready to go up to do his annual offerings. He says, all right, it's time to go. Let's go offer. Old man Eli's going to be waiting on us. She says, I'm not going this year. Because here's the thing. I kind of promised our son to the Lord a year ago. And so I'm going to wait to take him up to the temple until he's off of a liquid diet, because the next time I take him up to the temple, I'm kind of honor bound to leave him there for the rest of his life, and he's not allowed to shave or cut his hair. Elkanah says, "Okay, cool. We'll do this next year." He goes off to do his sacrificing, and she stays behind and nurses the baby. And by the time it's time for them to go to the temple again for the annual offering pilgrimage next year, baby's off liquid food, and it's out of Mama and Daddy's house and into the temple with him. And that's the end of chapter 1. Not as weird as I was expecting, if I'm being honest. Remember how weird Ruth was? For heaven's sake. Bizarre all over the place. Alrighty. So yeah, entirety of chapter 1, bloody little happens. Hopefully, there'll be more going on in chapter 2, which we're about to launch into. Here's the deal, y'all, for those of you who have missed out on my troubles of the last couple of days. I've got to make sure this stream goes a minimum of an hour, hour and 15 minutes, because that's usually when my computer starts glitching out, and I want to make sure that the magic that we wrought yesterday actually worked. Yeah. So if you have to go, if you have, work to do, children to deal with, lives to have, I completely understand, and it will not be held against thee. Just make sure you hit that thumbs up button on your way out if you would be so kind. I struggle for the thumbs ups. I really do. All right. A little more coffee and then chapter 2. Also, just so you know, the chat is entirely frozen on my side. So if you're talking to me, I can't see it. I gotta close this other tab because I have a suspicion that's gonna cause problems later. Why? Oh, why did I have to? Oh, I know why. Because I copied over the description. Because I finally figured out how to put a description in a live stream. Because I'm smart. I went to college. All right, everybody's listening at work. Hallelujah. All right. I will continue to provide you with same degree of riveting Bronze Age brouhaha. All right, chapter 2. And Hannah prayed and said, oh boy, I love these verbatim prayer recitals. My heart rejoiceth in the Lord, mine horn is exalted in the Lord. My mouth is enlarged over mine enemies, because I rejoice in thy salvation. There is none holy as the Lord, for there is none beside thee, neither is there any rock like our God. Talk no more so exceeding proudly, let not arrogancy come out of your mouth. For the Lord is a God of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed. The bows of the mighty men are broken, and they that stumbled are girded with strength. They that were full have hired themselves out for bread, and they that were hungry ceased, so that the barren hath borne 7, and she that hath many children is waxed feeble. The Lord killeth and maketh alive, he bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up. The Lord maketh poor and maketh rich, he bringeth low and lifteth up. He raiseth up the poor out of the dust, and lifteth up the beggar from the dunghill, to set them among princes, and to make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he hath set the world upon them. He will keep the feet of his saints, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness, for by strength shall no man prevail. The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken to pieces. Out of heaven shall he thunder upon them. The Lord shall judge the ends of the earth, and he shall give strength unto his king, and exalt the horn of his anointed. And Elkanah went to Ramah to his house, and the child did minister unto the Lord before Eli the priest. Now the sons of Eli were sons of Belial. They knew not the Lord. And the priest's custom with the people was, that when any man offered sacrifice, the priest's servant came, while the flesh was in seething, with a flesh hook of 3 teeth in his hand. And he struck it into the pan, or kettle, or cauldron, or pot. All the flesh hook brought up, the priest took for himself. So they did in Shiloh, until all the Israelites that came thither. Also, before they burnt the fat, the priest's servant came, and said to the man that sacrificed, Give flesh to roast for the priest, for he will not have sodden flesh of thee, but raw. And if any man said unto him, Let them not fail to burn the fat presently, and then take as much as thy soul desireth, then he would answer him, Nay, but thou shalt give it me now, and if not, I will take it by force. Wherefore the sin of the young men was very great before the Lord, for men abhorred the offering of the Lord. Yeah, I would too. But Samuel ministered before the Lord, being a child, girded with a linen ephod. Moreover, his mother made him a little coat, and brought it to him from year to year, when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. And Eli blessed Elkanah and his wife, and said, The Lord give thee seed of this woman for the loan which is lent to the Lord. And they went unto their own home. And the Lord visited Hannah, so that she conceived, and bare 3 sons and 2 daughters. And the child Samuel grew before the Lord. Now Eli was very old, and heard all that his sons did unto all Israel, and how they lay with the women that assembled at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And he said unto them, Why do ye such things? For I hear of your evil dealings by all this people. Nay, my sons, for it is no good report that I hear. Ye make the Lord's people to transgress. If one man sin against another, the judge shall judge him. But if a man sin against the Lord, who shall entreat for him? Notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto the voice of their father, because the Lord would slay them. And the child Samuel grew on, and was in favor both with the Lord and also with men. And there came a man of God unto Eli, and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Did I plainly appear unto the house of thy father, when they were in Egypt in Pharaoh's house? And did I choose him out of all the tribes of Israel to be my priest, to offer upon mine altar, to burn incense, to wear an ephod before me? And did I give unto the house of thy father all the offerings made by fire of the children of Israel? Wherefore kick ye at my sacrifice and at mine offering, which I have commanded in mine habitation, and honourest thy sons of me, to make yourselves fat with the chiefest of all the offerings of Israel my people? Wherefore the Lord God of Israel saith, I said indeed that thy house and the house of thy father should walk before me forever. But now the Lord saith, Be it far from me, for them that honour me I will honour, and they that despise me shall be lightly esteemed. Behold, the days come that I will cut off thine arm and the arm of thy father's house, that there shall not be an old man in thine house. And thou shalt see an enemy in my habitation, in all the wealth which God shall give Israel, and there shall not be an old man in thine house forever. And the man of thine, whom I shall not cut off from mine altar, shall be to consume thine eyes, and to grieve thine heart, and all the increase of thine house shall die in the flower of their age. And this shall be a sign unto thee, that shall come upon thy 2 sons, on Hophni and Phinehas. In one day they shall die both of them. And I will raise me up a faithful priest, that shall do according to that which is in mine heart and in mine mind. And I will build him a sure house, and he shall walk before mine anointed forever. And it shall come to pass that every one that is left in thine house shall come and crouch to him for a piece of silver and a morsel of bread, shall say, Put me, I pray thee, into one of the priest's offices, that I may eat a piece of bread. There we have 1 Samuel 2. Great koogly moogly. All right. So the moral of the story is, don't steal from the offering plate. My goodness. Because you will bring a curse upon your father's house, should you so do. Um, so this is prologue, yes? There's bound to be something happen eventually. I mean, other than a death curse. Poor house of Eli. It's got a death curse. How'd you like to get that word from the Lord in your old age after you've spent your entire life sacrificing that your kids have screwed up by stealing out of the offering plate so bad that you're not allowed any further generations of your house to serve the Lord? That would suck. Very specific. The way that they Maya says a curse on your father's house. Is that a generational curse? Yes, so it seems. Because not only is he going to kill who's it and what's it, but he's not going to allow any further priests to come from the line of old man Eli. He is going to raise up a new priest and bestow the priesthood upon that line and that household. All because who's it and what's it kept stealing a little bit of the sacrificial meat. Oh yeah, and also having sex in the temple. That's no bueno. Do not have sex in the temple. God does not like the sex. Created it, doesn't like it to be done. Doesn't want to see it. Got to remember this was at a time when the God of Israel was not seen as being omni anything, but particularly omnipresent. He was very very localized. He was a tribal god. Had his own little house. Had his own little priest who had his own little ephod. An ephod, by the way, is a ceremonial garment without sleeves. I found out because Angie was so kind as to tell me one day when I was going on and on about the curious girdle of the ephod, which was a recurring phrase back in the tent building instruction manual days of Leviticus, and I got hung up on the phrase, and yet for some reason never bothered to look up and find out what was an ephod. Maya says, generational curses, angry face. Yahweh is such a just God. Yep. Spare me from that kind of justice, I tell you what. That's not justice. That's vengeance. Or, not vengeance. What is the line? Punishment. This is not justice. This is punishment. It'd be better if I was wearing my skull t-shirt. Did Hannah's prayer sound familiar to anybody else? Almost like you might be more familiar with a later and more plagiarized and less verbose version. My soul doth magnify the Lord, and my spirit rejoiceth in God my Saviour, who hath looked with honor upon his maidservant and trampled the enemies and opened the womb and done all the good stuff on behalf of me because I'm special. Yeah, poor Mary would have known this story backwards and forwards, unfortunately, which probably not the best story to have committed to your early memory. For so many reasons, including the fact that you assume it's your fault if you can't have babies because your husband hath not gone in unto thee. Alrighty. Samuel, first book of Samuel, third chapter. We're almost halfway done with the stream, y'all. I know you. Wow, that is some glare. All right. Maybe we'll get a nice gruesome death scene for poor Eli's two sons. Who knows? I don't. I don't remember this part of the book. It's been a very long time. Nope, I lie. I remember this part. And the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli. And the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no open vision. And it came to pass at that time, when Eli was laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim, that he could not see. And ere the lamp of God went out in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was, and Samuel was laid down to sleep, that the Lord called Samuel. And he answered, Here am I. And he ran unto Eli, and said, Here am I, for thou calledst me. He said, I called not, lie down again. And he went and lay down. And the Lord called yet again, Samuel. And Samuel arose and went to Eli, and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And he answered, I called not, my son, lie down again. Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, neither was the word of the Lord yet revealed unto him. And the Lord called Samuel again the third time, and he arose and went to Eli, and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And Eli perceived that the Lord had called the child. Therefore Eli said unto Samuel, Go, lie down, and it shall be, if he call thee, that thou shalt say, Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. And the Lord came and stood and called, as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. Then Samuel answered, Speak, for thy servant heareth. And the Lord said to Samuel, Behold, I will do a thing in Israel, at which both the ears of every one that heareth it shall tingle. In that day I will perform against Eli all things which I have spoken concerning his house. When I begin, I will also make an end. For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knoweth, because his sons made themselves vile, and he restrained them not. And therefore I have sworn unto the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be purged with sacrifice nor offering forever. And Samuel lay down until the morning, and opened the doors of the house of the Lord. And Samuel feared to shew Eli the vision. Then Eli called Samuel, and said, Samuel, my son? And he answered, Here am I. And he said, What is the thing that the Lord hath said unto thee? I pray thee, hide it not from me. God's to do so to thee, and more also, if thou hide anything from me of all the things that he said unto thee. And Samuel told him every whit, and hid nothing from him. And he said, It is the Lord, let him do what seemeth him good. And Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and did let none of his words fall to the ground. And all Israel, from Dan even to Beersheba, knew that Samuel was established to be a prophet of the Lord. And the Lord appeared again in Shiloh, for the Lord revealed himself to Samuel in Shiloh by the word of the Lord. There we have chapter 3. I hate this story. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I lived this story. See, when I was a kid, I grew up in what might charitably be called quite a religious home. In much the same way that the Pacific Ocean is quite a large body of water, or that the Sahara Desert is quite a bad place to plant a garden. This is one of the reasons why I go by a nom de plume. Because my folks, God bless them, are still with us. And I don't want word to get back to them of my toings and froings and comings and goings. Change that banner there. Come on, touchpad. Why are you so twitchy? I hadn't told this story before. I don't think I've ever told the story. But when I was a small child, if I'm remembering the house we were living in correctly, I would have been 6, 7. And it was a very acoustically live house. Anything that happened, you could hear anywhere else in the house. And I kept hearing my name. You with me? You picking up what I'm putting down? And I'd go and I'd check in and say, somebody called me? My folks would say no. Say, all right. Go to my friends. I say, did you call me? No. If there were other relatives in the house, I'd say, did somebody call? I swear I heard my name. No. Well, guess what I was told to do? Yep. Pray. Ask for the word of the Lord to be revealed to me, because apparently I was being called by an invisible man in the sky. When I was a child, I thought as a child. I acted as a child. I believed as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things and grew the hell up. Now here's the thing. If you're raised in an environment where every bonkers story in this book is absolutely 100% true and should be taken literally as the literal gospel truth, it messes with your head. If you hadn't seen, let's see, Rachel Oates put out a video either yesterday or this morning. My notifications are weird, so I don't necessarily always get them on time. But Rachel Oates put out a video called something like "Demons Tried to Make Me Fail My Test" response, or something like that. It's a response video to a young woman who's convinced that demons tried to keep her from learning how to drive. I saw entirely too much of myself in that young woman. The demon-haunted brain. Not Rachel. Rachel's way smarter than I'm ever going to be. Because that was the thing. It was all demons. Everything that went wrong, demons. You get sick, demons. You're depressed, demons. You fall off your damn bike and skin your knee, demons. Testing your faith. And anything good that happens, praise God. Praise God for this. You get over a cold, praise God for that. You have food on the table, praise God for that. Folks still have jobs, praise God for that. And it messes with your head. As we all know, we humans are pattern-seeking animals by nature to begin with. But if you're taught that everything is a pattern or has behind it or beneath it an underlying pattern, that it's like a magic eye, that if you just look at it exactly the right way, you'll be able to see the hidden meaning, the true purpose, whether that's or is he in heaven, is he in hell, that damned elusive Pimpernel. Yeah, exactly. Maya hit the nail right on the head in way fewer syllables than I. It must be demons. Otherwise, I would have to take responsibility for my own actions. Exactly. Responsibility for my own actions, credit for my own victories, and learn from my own mistakes. If nothing is ever your fault, then nothing really matters in the long run. Because, this is just a trial run. This is like the training mode in a video game, real life. The actual mission, the actual everything comes in the afterlife, after you die. After you ascend to the bosom of Abraham and make your way through the pearly gates, and St. Peter says that your name is indeed written in the book of life and you don't have to take the down escalator. That's when the real fun begins. This is just a testing ground that we're in. And we got to be alert for the prompts. Because apparently, sorry, I just slid into a weird video game analogy here, just sort of sideways on. Who remembers Ocarina of Time? You remember Navi? Hey, listen. It's the voice of God. God trying to get your attention. Everything is God trying to get your attention. The rainbow is the promise of God. The rain is the threat of God. Hail is the judgment of God. Like I told somebody on Twitter this morning, I have no emotions whatsoever to be directed at God, because God does not exist. What I do have is a great deal of emotion to be directed at people who do things in the name of God, especially things like teach small and impressionable children dangerous, toxic bull hockey. That should really be the title of this book. The Big Book of Dangerous, Toxic Bull Hockey. You got original sin to start off the book. You got genocide to come immediately after that. Flood, and then you get into Egypt and the real fun starts, and then God starts using you as an object lesson, like he did Pharaoh. This is coming full circle, I promise. Pharaoh and the two sons of old man Eli both had their hearts hardened in order for God to pass judgment on them as as an object lesson. You caught that, right? While I was blasting through that, doing funny voices. Let's see. Be it far from me, I will honor them that honor me, I will honor them that despise me shall be lightly esteemed. I shall raise me up a faithful priest. I should have had a highlighter. Anyway, I promise it was in there. A verse where he says essentially, they're not going to do right because I have ordained that they not do right because I need to kill them in one day in order to cut off the line of Eli in order to make room for the line of Samuel, the beseeched of God one. Wow, that got Ark. All right. Revealed a little bit more of my story so far than I actually intended to do, but that's all right. We're all friends here. If you're not, you go ahead and leave your hate in the comments section. I hadn't gotten any good hate in any video other than the one about the Pygarg. Because the YouTube algorithm is weird and recommends strange things to people. Chapter, I have a banner. I'm all professional and stuff. Look at me with my banners and such. Y'all are so patient. Y'all put up with so much. The technical difficulties and the long rambles and everything. And times when I just don't know what I'm doing. All right, Chapter 4. Thank you all again so very much. I appreciate no end those of you who hang out here with me periodically. I appreciate my glasses too, because that means I can read the teeny tiny print of the holy, holy book. And the word of Samuel came to all Israel. Now Israel went out against the Philistines to battle, and pitched beside Ebenezer, and the Philistines pitched in Aphek. And the Philistines put themselves in array against Israel, and when they joined battle, Israel was smitten before the Philistines, and they slew of the army in the field about 4,000 men. And when the people were come into the camp, the elders of Israel said, Wherefore hath the Lord smitten us today before the Philistines? Let us fetch the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of Shiloh unto us, that, when it cometh among us, it may save us out of the hand of our enemies. So the people sent to Shiloh, that might bring from thence the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, which dwelleth between cherubims. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. That's bound to go well. And when the ark of the covenant of the Lord came into the camp, all Israel shouted with a great shout, so that the earth rang again. And when the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, they said, What meaneth the noise of this great shout in the camp of the Hebrews? And they understood that the ark of the Lord was come into the camp. And the Philistines were afraid, for they said, God is come into the camp. And said, Woe unto us, for there hath not been such a thing heretofore. Woe unto us! Who shall deliver us out of the hand of these mighty gods? These mighty gods. These are the gods that smote the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness. Be strong, and quit yourselves like men, O ye Philistines, that ye be not servants unto the Hebrews, as they have been to you. Quit yourselves like men, and fight. And the Philistines fought, and Israel was smitten, and they fled every man into his tent. And there was a very great slaughter, for there fell of Israel 30,000 footmen. And the ark of God was taken, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were slain. And there ran a man of Benjamin out of the army, and came to Shiloh the same day with his clothes rent, and with earth upon his head. And when he came, lo, Eli sat upon a seat by the wayside watching, for his heart trembled for the ark of God. And when the man came into the city and told it, all the city cried out. And when Eli heard the noise of the crying, he said, What meaneth the noise of this tumult? And the man came in hastily and told Eli. Now Eli was 98 years old, and his eyes were dim, that he could not see. And the man said unto Eli, I am he that came out of the army, and fled today out of the army. And he said, What is there done, my son? And the messenger answered and said, Israel is fled before the Philistines, and there hath been also a great slaughter among the people. And thy two sons also, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God is taken. And it came to pass, when he made mention of the ark of God, that he fell from off the seat backward by the side of the gate, and his neck brake, and he died, for he was an old man and heavy, and he had judged Israel 40 years. And his daughter-in-law, Phinehas' wife, was with child, near to be delivered. And when she heard the tidings that the ark of God was taken, and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she bowed herself and travailed, for her pains came upon her. And about the time of her death, the women that stood by her said unto her, Fear not, for thou hast borne a son. But she answered not, neither did she regard it. And she named the child Ichabod, saying, The glory is departed from Israel, because the ark of God was taken, and because of her father-in-law and her husband. And she said, The glory is departed from Israel, for the ark of God is taken. 1 Samuel 4, where there was a very great slaughter. Ah, you gotta love it. You can't pronounce it, even phonetically. It'll end up sounding, I don't know what. I can only pronounce ancient Hebrew, and then only in the King James translation. All right. A very great slaughter, and the loss of the Ark of the Covenant, and the incredibly anticlimactic death of Eli's 2 sons. Just bye-bye, sons of Eli. Dave says it's from Dune. Okay, that makes the contexts in which I've seen that make a lot more sense all of a sudden. I've just always been afraid and embarrassed to ask, and it's been 20 years since I read Dune. Long ago and far away. All right, speaking of long ago and far away, the Ark of the Covenant coming out of retirement for one last hurrah on behalf of the people of Israel. And nothing happens. Well, that's not true. 30,000 people die on the wrong side of the war because the Philistines are war people serving a war god. And kind of stressed out about the gods of Israel, plural. Riddle me this, Batman. Gods of Israel, who brought plagues upon the Egyptians in the wilderness. Plural. I know, it's the Trinity. Damn New Testament apologists. Get out of my head. Get out from under my skin. I don't like it. So, the Philistines come up out of the sea. They're a sea people who later become encamped inward, but they came up out of the sea. That was what the Egyptians always said, if memory served. But whether they come from the sea or the sky, the Philistines arrive. And Israel goes out to war against them and gets their booty spanked. 3,000 people dead. And so they send back to Shiloh for the Ark of the Covenant because they need a talisman and also the presence of God. Because you got to remember, God actually sits on the thing. That's why it's kind of vaguely bench-shaped, is because God is enthroned upon the cherubim, the wings of the cherubim. As they sit there with their wings outstretched, they form the back of the seat of the bench for him to sit on. And so they send word to Shiloh to bring in the Ark of the Covenant, and poor Eli lets it go with fear and with trembling in the care of his 2 sons, cursed though they be of God. And then he sits there at the door of the temple and waits and waits and waits and waits in Casablanca. And then the Philistines rally and kill more Israelites in the presence of God than they had managed in the absence of God. Great shout notwithstanding. You can cheer all you want, but you're not going to bring down the walls of Jericho, not this time. This time, we've got the Philistines who are much, much more impressive than the whoever it was that was dwelling in Jericho. The Jericho Heights. Jerichites. Jericho living folks. Oh, yeah, and Eli's sons die. Just poof, like that. No mention of how or why or at whose hand. Just to mention that, you remember God said they'd die on the same day. Not only did they die on the same day, they died in the same battle. Oops. Not trained for war, you understand. And also cursed of God. Let's not forget cursed of God. Maya says, who was the Philistine god? He sounds badass. The Philistines, let's see. If memory serves, they did not have a monolithic religion. They had, let's see, they had Asherah, the fertility goddess. They had Dagon Hadad, who was a war god. Baal Hadad, who was the war god. Dagon was the fish god. We're about to meet Dagon in the next chapter. Actually, I just saw as I was turning the page. Yeah. The Philistines. I tell you, the Israelites need to convert over to Philistianism if they want to stay alive. 30,000 people die in one battle. That's some Old Testament numbers there. I think it said Dagon. Oh yeah, the story of the altar of Dagon, which is a gas. In fact, we're gonna. That's a short chapter. We're going to do that, and we're going to close out the stream on that note, because I need a little funny in my life. And this story, I remember this story when I was a kid. This is the second funniest story in the Bible, and the single funniest story in the Protestant Bible. We'll just let that scroll. I don't remember. No. We're going to be professional. We're going to edit. We are now in chapter 5. And somehow we still seem to be streaming okay. Be still, my beaten heart. All right. One more chapter. Chapter 5. The story of the altar of Dagon. And the Philistines took the ark of God, and brought it from Ebenezer unto Ashdod. When the Philistines... Oh yeah, remember the Philistines stole the ark. They stole God. How silly of me to forget. I got so caught up. The Philistines stole God. My. Who knew? And the Philistines took the ark of God. They brought it into the house of Dagon, and set it by Dagon. And when they of Ashdod arose early on the morrow, behold, Dagon was fallen on his face to the earth before the ark of the Lord. And they took Dagon, and set him in his place again. And when they arose early on the morrow morning, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. And the head of Dagon and both the palms of his hands were cut off upon the threshold. Only the stump of Dagon was left to him. Therefore neither the priests of Dagon nor any that came into Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod until this day. But the hand of the Lord was heavy upon them of Ashdod, and he destroyed them, and smote them with emerods, even Ashdod and the coasts thereof. And when the men of Ashdod saw that it was so, they said, The ark of the God of Israel shall not abide with us, for his hand is sore upon us, and upon Dagon our God. And they sent therefore and gathered all the lords of the Philistines unto them, and said, What shall we do with the ark of the God of Israel? And they answered, Let the ark of the God of Israel be carried about unto Gath. And they carried the ark of God of Israel about thither. And it was so that, after they had carried it about, the hand of the Lord was against the city with a very great destruction. And he smote the men of the city, both small and great, and they had emerods in their secret parts. Therefore they sent the ark of God to Ekron, And it came to pass, as the ark of the God came to Ekron, that the Ekronites cried out, saying, "They have brought about the ark of God of Israel to us, to slay us and our people." So they gathered together and sent all the lords of the Philistines, and said, "Send away the ark of the God of Israel, and let it go again to its own place, that it slay us not and our people. For there was a deadly destruction throughout all the city, and the hand of God was very heavy there. And the men that died not were smitten with the emerods, and the cry of the city went up to heaven." And that's the end of chapter 5. Poor Philistines. All right. We seem to have crossed the threshold. They are leaving in like 5 minutes, and we'll be wrapping in about 5 minutes. So, hallelujah. Praise Dagon. All right, so real quick, they steal the Israelites' God. They set it up in the temple of Dagon, and the idol of Dagon falls down, and they put the idol of Dagon back up, and the next day it falls down again, and its head breaks off. And that's why you don't step on the threshold. Don't step on a crack, or you'll break Dagon's back. Dave says, "I'm still mostly in sync." Well, mostly is better than normal, especially at this point in the stream. All right, let's see. Don't step on the crack at the threshold of the temple of Dagon in Ashdod. So then they discover that they have VD. They have emerods in their secret parts upon their feet. So they send the ark away to a place where they are not. And when it comes to Gath, lo and behold, more emerods on the secret parts. So they say, well, what are we going to do with it? Let's send it to Ekron, where our enemies live. So they set out for Ekron, and the Ekronites say, "Please don't bring that here. We don't want to die or have emerods." And the Philistines say, "Okay, we'll just send it back where it came from." And where's God through all of this? Well, I mean, he's fighting the cities where the thing is. But, you know, if he didn't want to go someplace, you'd think he'd just... Oh, that's right. He's not all-powerful. He can knock over statues, but he can't save his people. That's the moral of the story, y'all. God is strong enough to tip over a statue, but not strong enough to save 30,000 of his chosen people from death at the hands of the warrior men of Philistia. And on that note, I think we'll close out the stream. Thank you all so much for being here and bearing with me. Thank you for helping me test out my streaming capabilities. And we will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, on the Daily Atheist Morning Show, where Chris will be interrogating me about my life. Nah. Not interrogating. That's not the word for what Chris does. All right. Everybody take care. Be safe. Stand against hate. And be safe on the roads. We've got ice. Bye now.